We live in an age where many people can summon a car, unlock a bike, stream 10,000 songs, lease a phone, rent a couch, finance a mattress, and have groceries at the door in an hour, yet still feel they do not quite possess the ground under their own lives. That contradiction is the subject. Material abundance has expanded in one sense, but control has narrowed in another. What feels modern and frictionless often comes with a quiet condition attached. Keep paying, keep complying, keep updating, keep renewing. The result is a strange kind of prosperity where access is everywhere, but ownership keeps retreating just out of reach. Ownership once meant more than having use of something today. It meant durability, the right to keep using it tomorrow, the right to repair it, lend it, resell it, inherit it, or ignore it for a year and come back without asking anyone's permission. When you owned a book, the book did not disappear because a contract changed. When you owned a tool, it did not stop working because a server went down. Ownership had weight because it reduced dependence. It gave ordinary life a zone of certainty that did not need to be renegotiated every month. What has replaced that certainty is not nothing, and that is why the change can be hard to name. We still have homes, cars, software, entertainment, jobs, and consumer goods. But more and more of them arrive in the form of temporary permission rather than settled possession. Rent, lease, finance, subscribe, stream, license, borrow, renew. These words sound administrative, almost harmless, yet together they describe a deep shift from possession to permission, from permanence to revocability. Modern life often feels temporarily owned because much of what structures daily existence can be altered, priced again, or taken back by someone else. Housing is the clearest place to see it. A rented apartment gives shelter, and for many people, renting is rational, flexible, and sometimes the only available option. But shelter is not the same thing as rootedness. If your lease ends, your rent jumps, the building sells, or the owner decides to renovate, your home becomes a negotiation. You may know every crack in the wall, every sound in the hallway, every patch of afternoon light in the kitchen, and still know that none of it is truly yours to keep. That knowledge changes how a person inhabits a place, because it is hard to feel settled when the terms of settlement are always provisional. This is one reason rising home prices hit harder than a spreadsheet can show. The problem is not only that buying a house costs more. The problem is that stable claim over a home has become harder to reach in many cities, even for disciplined earners who did what they were told to do. They save, delay gratification, build credit, and still find that ownership moves away faster than they can approach it. Rent buys time inside a structure, but not much confidence about next year. A life spent under recurring housing negotiation can make adulthood feel suspended, as if the permanent version of life never quite begins. Transportation tells the same story in a different key. For millions of people, mobility runs on monthly payments. The car in the driveway may feel owned because it is parked outside your building and carries your coffee stains, your playlists, and the receipts in the glove compartment. But if it is financed, the claim is split until the debt is gone. Miss enough payments, and the lender reminds you who had the stronger grip all along. It makes the logic even clearer. Use now, return later, stay inside the mileage limit, and keep the surface clean enough to avoid penalties. Even when the loan is paid off, ownership is less complete than it once looked. New vehicles are packed with proprietary software, locked diagnostics, and parts systems that make repair harder without dealer approval. Farmers have fought over this with tractors, and ordinary drivers meet a softer version of the same problem, when a machine they paid for still resists independent repair. Rideshare pushes the pattern further by turning transportation into pure on-demand access. You do not own the car, the route, or often even the price until the app tells you. Convenience is real, but it is a convenience built on continuous dependence. Digital life may be the most advanced version of this condition because it trains us to call access ownership, even when the contract says otherwise. People say they bought a movie, a game, an ebook, or an album, but in many cases, they bought a license to use it under terms set by a platform. A company can remove a title, lose distribution rights, change features, shut down servers, or close an account, and the thing you thought lived in your collection turns out to have been living in their system. The old shelf of DVDs or paperbacks took up space, but it also represented a simple freedom. If you had it, you had it. Streaming libraries and cloud accounts are larger, cleaner, and easier, but they are not the same kind of possession. The same logic has spread into software and devices. You do not just buy a program once and keep it for years. You subscribe to a service and keep paying to remain functional. Your files may sit in a cloud you can access only through continuing fees. A phone or laptop arrives sealed, sleek, and difficult to open, with batteries glued in and parts paired to software in ways that discourage repair. The object in your hand looks like property, but in practice, it often behaves like a terminal for a paid relationship. If enough of your work, memory, communication, and entertainment depend on that relationship, then the monthly charge is no longer a minor expense. It becomes a toll booth on ordinary existence. Debt extends the pattern from objects to time itself. Buy now, pay later sounds like a retail slogan, but it is also a philosophy of life in an expensive age. Student loans claim years of future income before a career has fully formed. Credit cards convert present comfort into future obligation. Mortgages, car notes, installment plans, and revolving balances can be rational tools. Yet a life assembled from obligations has a distinct emotional texture. It can look smooth on the surface while feeling fragile underneath, because so much of tomorrow has already been promised away. This is why even high earners often feel oddly poor in a deep sense. They may make enough to consume widely, travel, dine out, upgrade devices, and automate inconvenience, yet still own very little that cannot be interrupted by a missed payment, a changed term, a rate reset, a platform decision, or a job loss. Their standard of living is high, but their margin of control is thin. Wealth in the old sense created pockets of independence. Wealth in the newer consumer sense can create a very polished dependence. The difference matters because control, not just spending power, is what makes life feel solid. Work itself now carries the same temporary quality. The old ideal of stable employment was never universal, and often excluded many people. So this is not a sentimental story about a lost golden age. But it is still true that labor has become more contingent for many workers. Contracts replace careers, side hustles patch income gaps, schedules change through apps, and employment can feel less like a durable mutual commitment than a renewable arrangement. When your income is provisional, everything purchased through that income becomes more provisional too. The temporary mood of the labor market seeps into the rest of life. Why did this happen? Part of the answer is cost. When assets become expensive, access becomes the affordable substitute. Part of it is digitization, which makes it easier for companies to meter use, control updates, and retain power after the sale. Part of it is financialization, the habit of turning steady payment streams into the real prize. A one-time buyer pays once, but a subscriber, renter, debtor, or financed customer can be modeled, priced, and counted on. From the company's side, recurring revenue is stability. From the individual side, recurring payments can become a permanent state of exposure. Who benefits from this arrangement is not a mystery. Landlords benefit from a population that cannot buy. Lenders benefit when expensive basics require financing. Platforms benefit when media, software, and communication pass through accounts they control. Manufacturers benefit when repair is difficult and replacement is easier than maintenance. None of this requires a secret plan. It follows from ordinary incentives inside a system that prefers predictable cash flow and retained control. The unsettling part is that what is efficient for the system can make the person inside it feel less anchored in his own life. The psychological cost is easy to miss because it rarely arrives as drama. It arrives as low-grade uncertainty. You hesitate before putting holes in the wall because you may not be there next year. You stop building a media library because you are used to renting culture from a login. You treat your car, your devices, even your schedule as temporarily assigned, rather than fully yours. Over time, this can alter identity itself, because ownership is not just an economic category. It is one of the ways human beings store memory, extend agency, and make continuity visible. So the point is not that every subscription is bad, every renter is trapped, or every financed purchase is foolish. Temporary access can be useful, efficient, and liberating in the right context. The problem begins when temporary access becomes the default structure of nearly everything, and ownership becomes the rare luxury item. Then convenience stops being a tool and starts becoming a condition. A person can move through a highly polished life and still feel that most of it exists on borrowed terms. That feeling is not confusion. It is a rational response to a world where permission has replaced possession in more and more places. What can still be reclaimed is not a fantasy of total independence. Very few lives have ever been fully self-contained. But some forms of ownership still matter immensely. Low debt, emergency savings, durable tools, a paid-off device you can repair, local files, books on a shelf, skills that travel with you, relationships not mediated by platforms, and if possible, a home or place that cannot be repriced every season. The deeper lesson is that ownership is not mainly about status. It is about having some part of life that remains yours when the subscription ends, the algorithm changes, or the market tightens. In a world of temporary permission, whatever reduces revocability is more valuable than it first appears.